Hi there, it's the Common Magician with a little bit of an experiment here to try with you. I've got a couple of little paper balls that we ripped off of this little tissue here, or napkin, and I just want to see if you can try to follow along with my motions here and see if you can decipher what the situation is right now. So if you were watching carefully, it certainly would appear that I have a paper ball, one in each hand, but you can see that that is not the case. This is kind of along the lines of what they refer to in magic as the hand is quicker than the eye. Now, the unusual thing about that statement is that it's not really all that true, and that's why magicians don't usually appreciate that sentiment. It doesn't really describe how magic typically works. However, in this case, it is true, right? You can see that the motions that are going on there are a little bit out of sync, a little bit too quick, and the motions are so brief that the eye really can't keep up and keep track of what's going on. So I want to try something here. What would happen if we were to do this very, very slowly? So for example, if I take my hand and I hold it like that, and I place one ball in my hand, okay, so place one ball in my hand, and then I'm going to take the other one and place the other ball in my hand, just like that. And you can see the situation that we're in right now. And then if I close my fist, and we're going to try something else here. What if I reach in there and I take out one of those balls? In fact, I'm going to take it, I'm going to set it in my pocket down here. We'll place it all out of the way. So at this situation, you should be able to understand exactly what's happening. I had one, I put it in my hand. I had the other one, I put it in my hand, I closed my fist. I took one out and took it away, which means I must be left now with two. Hi there, it's the Common Magician again with another piece of impromptu magic. And again, as I talked about in the previous little tutorial, that impromptu magic I think is best when it isn't really impromptu, when it has a little bit of setup, a little bit of preparation ahead of time, so that when you're working with your ordinary objects in an ordinary setting, it looks impromptu, but really there's just a little notch higher because of that tiny bit of preparation. So in this case, because we're on the theme, we're going to use a thumb tip again. So I've got my thumb tip here, and what you also need obviously is another paper ball, because mathematically what we just presented can't really happen. Now, I presented this kind of in the quick and dirty way, but the truth is that this is probably best presented live, where you rip the corners off of a tissue, make the paper balls, and then carry on. As you watch it, the presentation I gave, you could reach the incorrect conclusion that there was, two balls bunched together. But really there are two separate balls. You could have someone else tear these corners off or make these, and then you can work with it. Probably better if you did it yourself, because you want to be consistent with the size. But what you need to have is the thumb tip and your extra paper ball sitting separately in your lap. This would be done probably at a table because you would need it for the presentation. This is a very old gag, kind of like, your favorite uncle's sort of magic trick, right? And it is a hand is quicker than the eye kind of presentation. But it works like this. You have two balls to start. Hands are clean. And you do this. You go right, left, pick, fake. So I retain it here. I put it into finger palm. Fake, pick, and then pass. So you end up in these movements appearing to have placed one ball in each hand, but really you have none here and two over here. So this sort of sets up the premise of the trick, right? And the idea then is that you're going to go slower and do something more deliberate. So as you're explaining that, you bring your hands back to the lap. And the reason why you need to have this lapped is because there's no way to just stick your hand in your pocket to pick this up. And you really can't go through that procedure with the thumb tip on, because it's very obvious. Okay, it would be showing in a way that you don't want. So you have this in the lap, and you're going to pick up, bring your hands to your lap, pick up the ball, put it back on the pad of your thumb, and then insert that into the thumb tip, so that when your thumb comes out, the ball has to naturally come out with it. And then you're ready to bring the hands back. I advise that you bring the hands back one at a time. So bring back the left hand as you're talking, right, and give it a beat, and then bring back the other hand, and you can gesture with them and keep the thumb tip kind of covered by the fingers. And then you're ready to continue on. So the procedure then there going on is like this. You're going to pick up one ball, and you want to use the thumb tip subtlety so that you're pointing the hand at the spectators so that you are subtly demonstrating that it's empty, right? Don't make a show of it. Don't say, I have my hand is empty. Just give the subtlety, and you're going to do this multiple times, right? So this hand is clearly empty. This hand is clearly empty as you pick up a ball, and then you're going to place the ball into the hand. And you want to place it near the fingers, okay? So up here away from the palm. And then you're going to reach over again, demonstrating that the hand is empty and in subtlety with the thumb covered underneath. You're going to pick up the other paper ball, and then you place that also in the fingers, okay? Then you're going to you can even gesture and continue to show the subtlety, right? You maybe put the finger on the tip of the thumb and point like this, fingers spread. You say, I'm going to close my hand, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in, again, gesturing with the subtlety so that the hand is obviously clearly empty without making a point of it. You're going to reach in with the thumb tip and the first finger, and you're going to deposit behind the balls in the hand, behind the balls in the hand, you're going to deposit the thumb tip and pull out the paper ball. And then you can drop it there to let that sink in. Take the ball and say, I'm going to put it in my pocket, right? And you just place it into your pocket and get out of the way. So now you're left in this situation. You have the balls in finger palm, and then the thumb tip is kind of in thumb palm back here in the back of the hand. And then you say, obviously, logically, if you're following along, I should have logically following along, I should have 2 paper balls in my hand, and then just drop the 2, right? So the reveal there, and now you are left dirty, right? You have the thumb tip in your hand, but there's really no interest in it. You have a couple of options at this point. You could just put the thumb tip on the thumb over here and then, get rid of it at your leisure, or you could bring this back to the back of the table and lap it. You could just lap the thumb tip or something like that. I found that it was better to just leave it there than to try to mimic some way to get it back on the hand, right? It's just better to leave it, because once the 2 paper balls show up in that hand, really the effect is over. They see what they want to see. It's not like we've made something vanish, right? It's been kind of a transposition that's happened. So there it is, another impromptu use of a thumb tip and an impromptu setting sort of trick here that takes just a little bit of preparation. Again, you probably want to have the paper balls created in plain sight, right? Because if you do that, it also removes any sort of concept in the spectator's mind that there could be more than 2 in play, right? If they saw you create the paper balls and the tissue or the napkin is sitting there with 2 corners torn off, then it seems really impossible that you had a third one hanging about. So there it is, another use for the thumb tip that's not obviously a thumb tip trick, using, the typical silk vanish or anything like that. And it appears to be impromptu with just a little bit of preparation to give it that extra oomph to make it magical. So good luck with this, and happy magicking.